Well, I've been running for about 2 hours inside Salida, and my body has come to the conclusion that I'm done. I'm struggling too much with this altitude. It's just not getting any better. It's even hard to control my asthma now. I need to shut this down. I'll fill you in on details in a little bit. Hello everybody, it's December 23rd, and I want to give you an update on my health. If you remember, if you were watching my channel back in the summertime when I was doing the Tour Divide, I had some issues towards the end, well, almost the whole Tour Divide, where I was having issues with heart rate and just cardiac issues and not knowing what it was, whether it was blood pressure medication or altitude sickness or whatever. But anyways, in the video I'm going to explain where I was at, and then I'll come back and I'll tell you where I am now. Hello. I want to give everybody an update. If you watched my videos of the Tour Divide here in 2025, you may recall that I was having some issues with, I thought it was the altitude, and I thought maybe it was my blood pressure medication. I wasn't feeling well, and I had to abandon the Tour Divide in Salida because I knew something was up and I wasn't feeling well, and I had gone to an urgent care earlier in Steamboat, and everything kind of checked out okay there, but I still wasn't feeling myself. Anyways, when I got home after a few weeks of recovering, I was starting to feel a little better, but I still wasn't myself, and I was kind of convinced that it was the blood pressure medication that I had started taking this past year. Anyways, I still wasn't great, and I was having some issues with, if I went out for a big ride, within about an hour, just over an hour afterwards, anytime I stood up, I had a major head rush, very lightheaded. And I just didn't feel like, even when I was riding, I just didn't feel like I had my usual strength that I usually do. So anyways, I persisted and I followed up my family doctor, and we did some tests, regular, CBC, blood work and ECG, and nothing out of the ordinary showed up. But I just kind of wanted to pursue it because when I was in Steamboat, there was a false positive reading on my ECG. That was always in the back of my mind that maybe it wasn't a false positive. Maybe their equipment was more sensitive than our equipment here, and I should follow up on it. So anyways, we persisted, and my family doctor arranged for me to see a cardiologist here in Toronto, and went for a stress test, some nuclear imaging, and I'm glad I did, because they took it seriously, and when I went there, everything was done the same day. Went in, did the stress test, did some ultrasound, did some nuclear imaging, and immediately followed up with the cardiologist afterwards. And it turns out they're seeing what looks like it looks like it's a narrowing of an artery in the lower part of my heart. So now there's a chance that it's a false positive, but the only way to know if that for sure is to do an angiogram with a contrast dye, I think they call it, to see if it actually is a blockage. And if it is a blockage, or a narrowing, I should say, they would put a stent in, and hopefully I can return to health. So I'm putting this video together because, well, first thing, if you're watching the video, it means that everything went okay. But there is risk to this, and it's routine. It's like here in Toronto, we have one of the best cardiac hospitals in North America, and that's where I'm going. And it's routine for them, but it's not routine for me. Anyways, tomorrow, today is November 5th, tomorrow, November 6th, I am going for an angiogram, and we'll have to see how that goes. So I'll be honest, nervous, a little scared. I shouldn't be, but because I'm going to a good place, but it isn't without risk. There are some risks with this type of procedure. So, I just wanted to kind of document this, and sorry, I'm rambling a little bit, but I guess that's my nervousness. Anyway, I think it's worthwhile to document this and, before and after, and put a video out to explain what happened and what the outcome is going to be, which we'll find out together after tomorrow. And anyways, I'm going to stop recording now for this part of the video, and hopefully the next time I check in will be post-op and we have a very positive outcome, and I can let you know how it went. So it's been 5 weeks since I had an angiogram, and the good news is I'm in good shape. What happened was when they did the ultrasound and the stress test and some nuclear imaging, when they were trying to decide whether it was worth investigating, the doctor called me into his office, and he said that they're seeing something, might be a blockage, and that you're going to need an angiogram. So I was a little scared. I was expecting to go into his office and have this conversation about blood pressure medication. Anyways, within a week, I was at St. Mike's in Toronto having an angiogram. And so they went in and they did find a couple things. So in the main coronary artery, I'm going to get this wrong, so forgive me if I don't speak technical terms properly, but in the main coronary artery, they saw a 40% blockage. And then on a smaller little artery that feeds the heart, they saw a 95% blockage. But in both cases here with our medical system, they don't do anything surgically with that. So they didn't put in a stent. So I'm going to have to go on a cholesterol medication long term, as well as baby aspirin to help thin the blood a little bit. But it should be not entirely reversible, my understanding is, but it should be a point where the plaque can get reabsorbed, and then it takes time for the artery to I guess, firm up and come back to normal. But there is a way back from this. Now, my word of caution is like I go for my physical every year, and my cholesterol has always been excellent. I've always been the textbook excellent, but somehow I have a 40% blockage. I have a really good diet. I can't exercise much more than I'm exercising, yet here I am, I still had a blockage. So if you have any cardiac stuff going on, or even have a concern, get it checked out. But anyways, my cardiologist, he said, yeah, I don't want to see you again, because your family doctor can treat you. You can go back to, there's no restrictions, go back to whatever I like to do, exercise-wise. So this is really good going into 2026. I'm really looking forward to it. I can get back to maybe doing some racing. And but I want to go over now just kind of generally how I felt. So after all the testing with the family doctor and the cardiologist and blood pressure and altitude, it's inconclusive what was causing my issues on the Thru-Rider. I still suspect it was a blood pressure medication. I did find an article that talked about it, that in some athletes, after 12 weeks, there was evidence that their max heart rate was lower. But eventually it did bounce back. Now, that 12-week period would have been about the time I was on the Thru-Rider. And I was on an increased strength of the medication at that point. So I suspect that was part of it, the fatigue, probably electrolyte imbalance, all that stuff. So I guess I'll never fully know, but at least now I know how to listen to my body, and I'm glad I listened to my body, and I'm glad I stopped riding when I did, because I was in a bad way, and I was making bad decisions. But the good decision was I decided to call it quits in Salida. I will return to the Thru-Rider at some point, not in 2026. I need a little bit of a break from it. But anyways, I just want to give you an update on how my health is going, and I'm looking forward to 2026. So anyways, thanks for watching the channel, and I will talk to you soon.